Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, welcome, Nicole. How have you been?
I've been good. How have you been?
I've been good. I know we were going to do this podcast, and I was thinking about the organization that we were a part of. How has that been going for you?
You know, I'll be very honest about this. Should I just say it?
Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah. So we met at the Landmark Forum, which I think everyone should do at least once. I think it's really powerful stuff. And I think the first one at least is worth doing. I think that the way they market needs to change because it puts pressure on people. That's like my biggest criticism of that. And I think it's the reason why people are like, oh my God, it's a cult. But, my friend who introduced me to it told me, he's like, hey, when you go, don't let the pressure and all this, all the marketing stuff affect your experience. Just block it out. Like he said that
Yeah,
to me before I went in. Because I do think it could ruin people's experience. Like feeling
yeah,
guilty if you don't sign up for something but yeah, other than that, I think the stuff they're teaching is really great. I just think the way that they're marketing it. But you know what? It's because they need to start using social media to promote what they're doing.
Well, you know what? A lot of cults don't use, right? Social
I
media
know that. I
for
know
that
that.
purpose.
I'm just saying if they're worried about why they're being called that, you know, just
Yeah,
a
I mean,
tip if anyone's
it's
listening.
interesting because I remember when we were actually going through it, I was actually looking forward to the fact that it was a cult. That's actually almost why I went. And I remember we were talking, I'm like, oh my God, yeah, like this is a cult. There's the cult tactic. There's the cult tactic. There's the cult tactic. It was interesting. I think it wasn't even the content. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I'm like glad I did it. I don't regret it because I got to I met you, I met Sherry, I met like a bunch of really good people that I actually still talk to. So
Yeah.
that to me was priceless. Not that I paid to go there, but still, it was priceless.
Yeah.
It was more like I'm a little angry because like we were there for 9 hours per day, like for 3 days in a row, and I was thinking about it. It's like when they would say like the key to power is in the advanced course. Well, I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, oh, what you mean is the power is in the present moment. You're talking about Eckhart Tolle. I was like, bro, I could have just read The Power of Now. I could have just watched one of his podcasts. I didn't need
Yeah.
9 hours per day, bro. It was crazy.
That was another thing, but I'll also say that hold on.
You're good.
Sorry. I was getting a call, but you can cut that out, right? Yeah. All
Yeah.
right, I guess just make
This
a
thing actually like takes out like dead audio too. So it might actually do it on its own.
no way. Okay,
Yeah,
well,
bro, you
I don't
got to
know how
get this,
Oh
bro.
yeah.
I'm telling you. Riverside is
Um
incredible.
yeah, no, I do got to get this. That's crazy. Okay, hold on. I need to turn this off. How do I turn how do I do do not disturb? Silent isn't the same as do not disturb, is it?
No, so I assume you have an iPhone, right?
Yeah.
If you do the swipe thing, like on the top right, there's like a do not disturb button where you swipe down.
Okay, and which one is it?
It's like the moon.
The clock,
No,
right?
there's one like it's like the moon. Well, let me see it.
Turn on do not disturb.
Yep,
Now it's
that
on.
one.
Yeah, now
Cool.
it's on. Okay, cool. Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
it was interesting. Like I definitely, like I said, I don't regret doing it, but I was like, yeah,
Here's
I'm
the
not
thing
like
that
I felt like I had to like cry in a way because I felt like I was one of the
Did you
only
cry?
people who should. No, I didn't. But I felt like I should have cried because like that was an accomplishment. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you generally not cry?
Not in front of 400 people. No.
Okay, well, I like that you at least cry. You don't have to cry in front of other people. I just think it's a normal human emotion that doesn't, especially guys don't feel like they can cry.
Yeah.
Um,
What
but but
what inspired you to actually do it? Because I know your dad did it, and then think you had some friends do it. Like,
yeah,
what made you want to do it?
everyone was like it changed my life. And then the guy who told me to do it, he was like, it's the reason I got famous. He's like, it's the reason I was able to maintain a good marriage with my wife. I reconnected with my dad. I think it helps a lot with like forgiveness and, realizing that things don't really mean anything. And I think the stuff they teach is really good. And I think look, I'm sure Eckhart Tolle and Michael Singer and all these spirituality writers say a lot of the same stuff, but it's different when you watch people go up and talk about their problems, and then you watch like their spouse come in on the third day and like, they've had their breakthrough or whatever. I think that makes it different, and it makes you feel like, oh, maybe I can actually do this too, because when you read stuff, you're not always applying what you read. And they also like, they make sure that they at least try to make sure that you make phone calls to people and all that. So
They're pretty adamant about that. They do a good job
did
of
you
that.
you made some phone calls?
Yeah, I made a lot of phone calls.
Yeah, I
I
love that.
definitely I made a phone call to it wasn't like I didn't have like this crazy closure because I actually do speak to my mother, but there was some things we didn't talk about, but I spoke to her. It was like a pretty quick phone call. It was good. Again, don't regret it. Now, I'm not as cool as you. I haven't done landmark advanced. So I know according to them I'm a failure. But yeah, how is are you still in it or no?
No, for some reason, the advanced course and everything after that right now isn't in person. And I can't concentrate if there's classes on laptop. Like it's way too easy for me to just be like, hey, like,
Yeah.
So for me, that's why it didn't work. If it was in person, maybe it would have been different, but it was very hard for me.
Yeah, yeah. Cults tend to do better when they're in person for sure.
I agree. And by the way, it's funny because I do think the cult thing helps them, because I read a lot of the reviews before I went. And
Hmm.
again, some people were like, it changed my life, people that I really respect. And then there were some that was like these long things about how it's for sure a cult. And I'm like, I just want to go and see what's up then.
Yeah, it's like in the scary movie where it's like, don't cross this sign, and then like that innocent girl crosses that sign and just gets killed. It's kind of like that. You kind of like get that thrill. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're like, I have to now. I have to
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I'm special. I'm gonna change this cult.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to talk to you about, so I know you before you like started your podcast. I'm really curious about like your journey so far. So you have the podcast now, which is beyond the interview, but I know you did red carpet like interviews before that. So what's kind of been your journey with that? Because I know that like these interviews on a red carpet are short, they're kind of to the point, they're more for like, I would say like vanity and just social media. But then when you get into a podcast, it's more of a deeper conversation where you're actually getting to know the person. So what was kind of your journey, like where you started off with that and then transitioned into podcasting?
So when I started doing that, first of all, I thought it was the coolest job in the world. I'm like, I can't believe I get to be here. You're at the Oscars or the Golden Globes or the Grammys or whatever. And depending on what outlet you work with, you get to have interviews with, some of your favorite stars and all that. And then I slowly realized after a few years that I couldn't have in-depth conversations with people. It's exactly what you said. Like, it's just shallow conversations. Like, who are you wearing? And, what was it like working with George Clooney on this set? And what was it like working with this director? Which is cool, but it's not the stuff I wanted to talk about. I wanted to be like, how'd you quit drugs? Or like,
Or
what did you
how did you
learn?
not quit drugs? How did you switch
That
drugs?
or what was your divorce like, what did you learn from it, or what was your childhood like and how did that affect who you are, and just things like that. I always wanted perspective and insight, and I'm like, damn, I can't even get that here. And then I thought about it, and when you're at these outlets, it takes you a long time to go from like a red carpet reporter to like a feature writer to an editor. And I was like, it'll take me forever to get to interview these people. On top of that, I wasn't really making much money. You don't make that much money as a journalist. So
I didn't think you
I
made
was
any money at
like,
all.
I mean, you made some, but not a lot. Like close to nothing. So you weren't far off.
Yeah, but to even
But
like get to
again,
the point where you're doing like red carpet interviews at like the Oscars or something like that, is it more something where like is there audition processes for that? Was it just like word of mouth? Like how do you even get to that point before you even start podcasting?
So I went to hosting classes, so I was trained a little bit. However, I was actually interning at Hollywood Reporter, and they would send me to go do interviews, but they would give me like a recorder because I was supposed to write articles, like short articles about a movie premiere or, a charity function or whatever. And then I was like, I went to the guy who would assign me articles. I was like, hey, don't we have like a microphone and stuff for these interviews? Because Hollywood Reporter wasn't on TV,
Yeah.
at least not at that time. And they're like, yeah, we have a mic and a mic flag and all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, can I just go like that and do interviews like that? And they're like, yeah, yeah, we can use the videos for the articles, whatever. And so I sort of just made it happen on my own. And then later I went and worked at Jewish Journal, which is like a big Jewish magazine here.
Mm-hmm.
They had not applied to any of these events or anything, and then I started applying on their behalf and getting in. And so I just figured it out. You make relationships with public relations firms and agencies and stuff, and they usually handle this stuff. So yeah, I learned the game.
Yeah, it's actually interesting you bring that up because like back in the day when, especially when you go to places like Vegas and LA, where there's certain as a guy, right, from a guy's perspective, you're always like told no in places like LA. Like, yo, you can't come to this club, you can't come to this party, you're not rich enough, you're on social media, whatever it is. And the funny thing with the microphone and the video, so this is how I actually got into it. Initially, there was like a bunch of parties I always like wanted to get into, social events like in Vegas and stuff like that. And there was no way I was going to get in. I was 21 years old. I was like nobody, like I didn't have like enough status or clout and stuff. One of the ways that a lot of guys actually would like bypass these things was like that by being media. So there were two ways of being media. Either you had your camera or you had a microphone or you had both. And they would like actually just set up doing their own red carpet interviews and stuff like that. And ironically, when you did that, it was really funny because no one would stop you, number one. And then all the girls you would meet thought you were the host. So they'd all want to get your number. And it actually would work. They didn't have
so
tons.
You would just show up with like a camera?
Yeah, on media. Sorry, I forgot my pass. It actually, you'd be shocked how much it works.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's so interesting. Okay, so
yeah, but actually, I have a question for you. This, you know how at least when I looked you up, I haven't found the interview, but you've interviewed Neil Strauss before, right?
Yeah, he's my good friend.
Okay, so I'm sure you know the book The Game. Have you read it? Okay, so I'm really good friends. So there's a guy in that book named Tyler Durden. I'm actually going to hang out with him tonight. He's a really good friend of mine. He goes by RSD Tyler, but that whole pickup artist community. So what a lot of those guys used to do was, so what were the places that they mainly went to? So there was like New York, there was Vegas, which was the hub, and then LA. What a lot of these guys would do back when the Playboy Mansion was a thing was they would be videographers. So what they were trying to do was just get into all these parties without spending a bunch of money because half these pickup artists were broke. So their way of doing that was to be hosts and videographers. And a lot of them, they wouldn't even have an SD card. Their camera wouldn't have a battery. They would borrow it from someone. But it's funny that you kind of understand the situation. You're just playing the game and you're kind of just literally you're faking it till you make it. But ironically, that's literally what it is. Guys started making this content. The places started recognizing them, and then it almost became true. And that's how it happens.
Damn. Yeah, I didn't know that part.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. Especially back in the day, this was before my time, when the Playboy Mansion was a thing. They used to host those crazy parties there. That's how a lot of them actually got into it. So with you, when you were doing, the red carpet stuff, when did you get that idea, hey, I want to transition into podcasting?
Okay, I didn't know what podcasting was yet, so that's not what I did first. So I was working for a digital marketing agency because I wanted money, and being a copywriter for them was the best way for me to do that. And then, I went back and forth, different jobs. And then finally, over the pandemic, the beginning of the pandemic, there was this app called Clubhouse, and everyone was at home.
Yeah, you told me about this.
I get on Clubhouse, and I start hosting these things called rooms. It's like Twitter Spaces, but they were called rooms. And I would just bring authors on and interview them. And then I met all these like Naval Ravikant and Eric Weinstein and all these people that are like really big public figures who have been interviewed by like Joe Rogan and, so and so. And so I was one of the biggest hosts on that app. And I made all these connections. And then as Clubhouse started dying down, I moved over to Twitter where all my friends were, and they had all gotten into crypto.
Yeah.
Again, I didn't know anything about that. And
it's the most LA thing I've heard on this podcast. So yeah.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is this is going to be even more LA. What happened was one of my friends was like flying around in private jets, a guy, and he was, he lived in an apartment. And I was like, this is weird. What's going on? And I hit him up and he's like, yeah, no, you need to come to Twitter. Like, the NFT boom is crazy and blah, blah, blah. And so I went to Twitter and I started becoming like a personality in the NFT space. And so on Twitter, I interviewed like Logan Paul and all these people who are dropping NFT projects. And so I established credibility that way. And then I got a manager who convinced me to do a podcast. I didn't want to at first because I was like, I make decent money doing this crypto stuff and I like interviews, but I was like, I had an insecurity. I was like, maybe this will stop me from meeting someone that I want because I spent so much time on the internet that I was like, oh, people are going to think I'm like this career boss babe bitch, so I was like I don't think I want to do that. And my manager, thank God, was like, no, you're doing it. This is like you love this. And I got a 6-figure deal from a crypto company.
Nice.
And thank you. And so after that I started podcasting, and that was it.
How do you when you start podcasting, what is it like you're usually looking for in like a guest? Like, is it like just something to connect with? Is it something about their story? Like, what do you look for when you're like searching for guests?
That's a good question. So I always want someone who has significant insight and perspective. I don't care if they have field expertise or they have lived a life that has given them that kind of insight, if that makes sense. Like, it's not even about if they're famous or not. I'd rather take a person with really good insight and really good sound bites than someone who is famous and doesn't have shit to say and is concerned about their privacy. I don't care to interview that person. So I don't just take guests. Like, I don't really take guest submissions unless I really look at their content and I'm like, whoa, need them. There's a few people like that. One person I'm really excited to interview is James Sexton, the divorce lawyer.
Just with him the other day.
Were you? Where?
He hung out with my buddy Michael for his birthday. So yeah, he's a cool dude. I've watched like almost every podcast he's been on, and he's brilliant. I really like him. I'm good friends with. There's another YouTuber. He's like James Sexton does collaborations with this guy. His name is Psychhacks. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
Yeah. I've seen that guy.
Yeah, I interviewed him a couple months ago. Absolutely brilliant guy.
Wow. Yeah, I need to look into his content more, but James Sexton is just on another level. Like, that type of guest is so rare where it's not just that he has the information, it's the way he articulates it, just like his voice inflection, the way he tells stories, the way he gets emotional, passionate, and he doesn't give a fuck. Like, he truly doesn't.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Yeah. I guess from watching his stuff, like, what do you take from it? Because I think he gives a lot of valuable insights on kind of like the current state of relationships, right? Because he almost like bridges a lot of like, he's like an intersection, right? Like, he understands like the women's side of things because of like who he represents. He understands like what are like actual like agreements that people have. And he also kind of has a little bit of this liking in the red pill space. Like, what do you think you take from his content from like when you watch it?
I think he's so not red pill though. I want to say that. What I take from his content He gives really good advice on how to prolong a relationship and how to, do cute things for your partner.
Yeah.
He's just, he says things that are just true. Like, look, if you're not going to have honest, hard conversations, then you have no business being in a marriage. Like, one thing that he says stuff that I don't really see too many other people saying it. I don't know. I feel like it warms my soul when I listen to him speak. Like, when he was talking about how he doesn't like when people are like, my children are my biggest pride and joy in life. And he's like that's it? Like, that's it? There's nothing else? Like, you have no other dreams or passions? Or he just
Hmm.
says stuff that I'm like, other people would be way too afraid to say this because of the backlash that they'd get.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally get that. I've been reading a lot of because I know he does articles and stuff like that. I've watched especially his last podcast. He went on Diary of a CEO. Isn't it crazy some of the conditions in the cases that he talks about? Have you
Yeah.
ever watched that?
Yeah,
The conditions with the prenups.
yeah, where like the girl doesn't get alimony if she gains weight or something.
Yeah, it's like for every 10 pounds she gained, she lost like $10,000 in alimony per month or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. But
Yeah.
it just goes to show what people value. I like another thing that he said where he was like, "Who are you to say that people exchanging beauty for money isn't love? That's their definition of it. They want that." And I was like, "Damn." Just because you don't see something a certain way doesn't mean other people can't.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially in LA, right? I think that's pretty much how love works, right?
Yeah, I don't think they're fulfilled, but I definitely, unless they actually have a bond, some people, a beautiful girl marries a very wealthy man, but they actually are best friends, but they're probably not even aware that they're unfulfilled. Like, some people just come from crazy circumstances where they're just so grateful to even be taken care of that I don't know. Some people probably don't think about that. Or some guys like never got girls and then finally they have one or they're able to support one and they walk around with her and everyone's like, "Bro, what does that guy do?" And he feels a sense of belonging from the fact that other guys are dapping him up because his girl's hot.
Yeah, I've honestly, because those types of guys, obviously they always come to Vegas at least once. I feel like why I like Vegas is everyone who's relevant always comes to Vegas at least once a year. Every
Yeah.
single person, right? For whether that's the fight, New Year's, you're coming for CES, right? Something I see very often is, and I actually do feel bad for a lot of these guys, because I'm in nightlife a lot. And I see, have you ever seen the prices for tables on the weekends here? They're ridiculous.
No, can you tell me how much they
Well,
are?
of course you don't know. You're a girl. Of course you don't know. I didn't think you would. Yeah, I think I have seen tables for not even the stage table, just a dance floor table. I've seen dance floor tables for $40,000. I know. Have you
Damn.
ever been to Omnia?
No, not yet.
So Omnia is. Hold on, my video's fucking up. Give me 1 second. Can you see me or no?
Now I can, but it's like flashing.
It's frozen.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay. Give me 1 sec.
Okay, no worries.
Restart it.
Are you at your house?
I am in my apartment.
I like how you have like the panel thing behind you.
The panel thing? What do you mean?
I don't know, you have like the thing with the lines.
Oh yeah. So
Isn't that
this
called
isn't
the panel? Really? Oh, wait, your audio's a little off. Talk, maybe it's better. No. How did that happen though?
use this 3 times a week.
Can you not hear that it's not like
Okay, so we were talking about tables. All right. So
yeah, and how they're so expensive.
before I tell you, I want you to guess. What do you think they cost? So let's give a hypothetical. It's a Saturday at the Wynn. Chainsmokers are playing. How much do you think, on New Year's? How much do you think it costs?
Okay, on New Year's is different, but I thought on like a regular weekend it's like $20,000.
Yeah, $20K might be a little much, but definitely you can get a $10,000 table for sure.
Oh, you can at the Wynn?
Yeah, because the excess is huge. Like, it's a giant club. You can get like, there's some tables you get for like $1,000. Now you're gonna be back behind everyone outside in like 40-degree weather in like one of the cabanas with like no security.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
for like a stage table, probably like 10 grand. And then if it's like New Year's, or if it's like, oh, like CES, they're going to be like 30 grand easily. There will be 30K tables.
Really? Wait,
Yeah.
who's coming in for CES besides like tech people?
Well, because all these rich tech people are coming in, all the talent's going to come in because they know these people are going to spend money. So what they do is they're going to book all the best DJs for this weekend. So you're going to see it. Zook is going to have like probably like Millennium. It's going to have like Omni is going to have like Nightmare. Like XS is going to have a bunch of things. CES is very big here. So you're going to see a lot of that. I have seen like, I remember one time I was looking at prices for Zook for like a dance floor table. And it was like 40,000.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
My hotel was like $1,200 a night.
Yeah. So
crazy.
I find it interesting with bottle service because I was always thinking to myself, like, why the fuck would I spend $1,000 on this, more or less $40,000? Like, even if I was thinking to myself, I'm like, even if I had $100 million, I wouldn't spend this much money. And I was actually thinking about it. When I started getting into nightlife, and especially after reading the game, I realized that like a reason a lot of guys buy bottle service is to impress women. And that's the whole economy of like how a club works. But oftentimes what happens is that a lot of the guys who spend that much money, they have really, really, like, they have a lot of other things not going for them. They have like really bad game. Yeah. They're not in really good shape. They can't dress well. They definitely can't talk well. And they get to like pay to be around girls, but like get nothing from it.
Right?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
No, I realize that too. If a guy has to lean on his wealth, a lot of cool guys have money. But if a guy has to lean on his wealth to attract a woman, bad sign.
Honestly, I think that guys who have to lean on their wealth, like, if you have to lean on your, like, it's one thing to have wealth, but I like what you said. If you have to lean on it, or I like to say if you have to lead with it, like, you almost become a target for a girl, like transactional women. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah.
You're asking
it's
for
like this. Yeah, it's like the same thing as, I would say, people get really offended by this, but if a girl who's always dressing provocatively and she's attracting guys who only want to sleep with her, she might be a good girl. She might be a totally good girl. Like, but who do you think you're going to attract? You know? That's how it is.
Bro, it's the Dave Chappelle joke. He said in one skit, he was like, honey, I'm not saying you're a whore, but you are wearing a whore's uniform.
I love Dave Chappelle. He's so funny.
Yeah. I do find it interesting when you are in a place like Vegas because you do get to see both sides of it. Funny enough, not half, I would say like on a really good night, like 20% of the tables. So what they do, I actually think this would be a really great guest for you. There's a really good book. It's called Very Important People. And it's by this professor at BU. And she was actually like a runway model in like New York. Because New York kind of has like that tall, like skinny, like that's like the thing there. And what she actually did for like a PhD was she actually went into the nightlife scene herself, like undercover, because she was a model and she got invited to everything. And she actually broke down exactly, like step by step, like academically, like and she basically did like an expose on nightlife in New York, but like all over the world.
Wow.
So she talks about like how like the ratio works, like why girls get in for free, like the table spenders, and also the fact that a lot of tables that actually have the most women aren't being paid for by anybody. So that was like, remember I was talking to you about like the hack with like being the video guy? The other hack was actually bringing girls to the club because you would actually get tables for free.
Yeah, it's true. I have a friend who's friends with like all supermodels, and many times we've gone to restaurants and clubs for free, and they just give you the table because if there's hot girls already there, then it just increases the value of that club. So that makes total sense, and I would love to interview someone like that.
Yeah, you should reach out to her. She does interviews. She's been on like Chris Williamson, stuff like that. So I think she would be open to it. But it's interesting because I'm very fascinated like by psychology, as you could obviously tell by Landmark Forum. That's obviously why I went, of course. But I'm very fascinated by the fact of like the psychology of a nightclub. I feel like it basically is like, if you want to see like the psychology of men and women like live and at play, I think the nightclub is the best place to see it because you kind of just see like, okay, like the really hot girls, basically as a guy going into the nightclub, I'm sure you've been into a
Yeah.
nightclub. Some like VIP host comes up to you. He offers you a drink. He wants you to meet his friend who's also his spender. I'm sure you've been through that. As a guy, when you go into a nightclub, it's like everything is like literally designed to fuck you over completely. Everything.
Okay,
if you're
tell
not
me
a
what
spender.
that's like. Okay, tell
So
me what
just
that's
think about
like.
it. So you walk into a nightclub. Live the other night. This shit was so funny. I literally saw, so they have the sign where they tell you what like the cover charges is. And I'll text it to you. It was men, 500. Women, 0.
Whoa. $500.
$100, bro. And so basically, well, one, that's the first part. That's the first part where it's working against you. The second part is what they do with nightclubs. Because if you understand the psychology of it, right? The psychology is to get men to spend money on tables because they think they'll have access to women. That's the whole business model. So how does that work? So the way you would incentivize that would be if you're a person who's in GA, it punishes you. So how do they punish you? So first off, I don't know how this works in LA, but if you're in Vegas, when you're here, I'll take you out and I'll show you what's going on. So you'll see a guy in a suit like come up to you. And he'll have he'll be like a security guard. So like he has like a mic in his ear, and that's called a girl guy. And literally his whole job is to go up to every girl that you're talking to. Like you're talking to the hottest girl you've ever seen. His job is to literally go up to her, take her from you, and like put her at a table that you can't access. That's his job.
What?
Yeah, it's called a girl guy.
I had no idea that this was happening.
Yeah. That's literally his entire job. That's like before you become a host, like one of the top hosts where you're booking spenders, you're what's called a girl guy.
Dude, my mind is blown right now.
Yeah. Then we're not done yet. So what they also do is obviously the drinks are super expensive. So often what happens is you're like basically buying drinks for girls, but and let's be real, if they're really hot, they can just walk into the backstage when G-Eazy's up there, but you can't. So you're going to buy them drinks. They're going to fucking leave you. And I saw that was happening. And when I moved to Vegas, I was like super broke. So I just knew that was always going to happen. So what I always would do was like, if I saw a group of really hot girls, I just knew somebody was going to buy them a drink. It wasn't going to be right then, but you just know like some dude is going to cave in and buy them a drink. So the strategy was, I'm just going to wait for him to buy them the drink. And then while he's sitting at the bar talking to the bartender, I'm going to start talking to them. So because what is he going to do? He's not going to not give them the drinks now, but he can't tell me to fuck off. So it's a win-win.
Can he not?
Well, it's a win-lose. I mean, what is he going to say?
Have they ever told you? Yeah, that's true, because it's not his girlfriend. He just met her.
I mean, sometimes it is his girlfriend, but who knows? Like things can change in a nightclub. Honestly, that's even another thing. I have seen girls ditch their boyfriends to go backstage. I've seen that happen many times.
Yeah, I've seen it too.
Yeah. So what else do? They rope it off. Like some of the obviously like you can't sit down. It's super crowded. The ratio's off, and a lot of the way like the club is platformed. Like if you go to Zouk, if you go on the dance floor, you're gonna see that the stage tables are literally like elevated above the dance floor. So you're literally like looking up at them, and it's roped off.
Oh wow, yeah. Yeah.
So it's designed like that.
To make you feel inferior if you're in...
Yeah. It's like, hey, it's basically like the psychology of it is, hey, you're not getting any girls. This is why you're not going to get any girls. Spend money. That's the psychology of it.
Yeah.
So I always, like, when I first came here, my goal was to get around that. So I just kind of knew this was the system. And then when I read the game and, like, I learned a lot of, like, the things that were going on, I was like, oh, there's, like, a system here. How do I get around that and like start networking with people? So that's how I actually started doing all this. This was like the nightclubs were kind of my intro to it.
You don't use like game tactics though.
I used to. I think every guy who struggled with girls at a certain point has either read the game, maybe not now because that book is so old, but they like have studied pickup at some point. Every guy who has struggled has like somehow stumbled upon that. I think
so
it's
you
less
used
so
to struggle
now.
And now you don't.
No, I don't struggle anymore, but I used to, 1,000%. I was definitely not that guy in high school.
When did things change? By the way, I think it's a great thing to not peak in high school. I think it's a great thing. But when
like all the people who peaked in high school for me are like like what happens after you peak? You must come down.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
You know?
That's what I'm saying. That's a bad thing. If that was your peak, that literally means you're not successful and you're not doing well. So, but
Yeah.
but I was gonna ask, so what changed? Like, what did you learn that worked and didn't work with girls? Like, if you're looking back, was there anything that you thought to yourself, like, damn, if only I knew this years ago?
Yeah. So remember how when we were at Landmark, we were talking about like the alpha male podcasters and like the red pill space and like whether like, toxic or not? I know we got into a little bit of a debate there.
Yeah.
So here's like kind of like there was actually a timeline of how this happened. So you had the game come out. So it's interesting with Neil, right? Because what he did inadvertently led to the red pill movement. So let me explain. So you have the game come out, and that's like this big blockbuster novel. There's like, I'm sure you remember he talks about Mystery. So then Mystery becomes really famous. He gets that show on MTV. Like that starts a movement. Like guys are getting into this book. They're going out and trying it. Because back then, being like, I know you asked me like, well, you didn't do game. Like you didn't say pickup. So back then, being a pickup artist was like a cool thing. It wasn't like a stigma the way it is now. So like Mystery used to have this show on MTV where he would like do pickup in Austin, like these different strip clubs. And it was like very mainstream. So that's like when it started peaking. Then once YouTube started coming out and then like pickup artists started having these YouTube channels, basically what happened was it got like so extreme to where a lot of these channels started getting ratioed. They started getting banned. So pickup basically got taken off the map by YouTube because that was like their main source of content. Then, and I actually talked to a lot of the guys about this. Then what happens is around that time, you start having these forums come about. So there's these forums about like these incel forums, these pickup forums and everything like that. And what happens was, because Neil is so correct when I don't agree with a lot of things in that book, but he's really correct about this. A lot of these guys, whether or not it's their fault or not, come from like this deep sense of insecurity. Yeah. What happens though was, and I actually will talk to RC Tyler about this later, but the way he talks about it is there was an element of pickup that definitely worked and helps men get out of their shell. The problem is that when a lot of that stuff got completely eradicated, because there was actually good things in the beginning and it just veered off onto this very weird path because it just evolved from like the origin. So what happens is you have a lot of these frustrated guys, right? So you have a lot of these frustrated guys who aren't getting success. Then what also comes out at that time? So then you get Instagram coming out at the same time. So then you have Instagram affecting relationships. Then from there, what blows up? The red pill. And then what's the red pill about? The red pill is about like warning you against women. So there was a lot of people who just like wanted to, like red pill originally was meant to be just like a description of human nature, almost like evolutionary psychology. But then you have these manosphere, alpha male, red pill, really misogynist content creators come about. So all of it almost stemmed from like the pickup movement.
Damn, yeah. And it's funny because Neil's nothing like that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and I don't know if you know, but he started this thing called the Society years after writing a book called The Truth, which was about how he cheated on his wife.
Yeah.
And he went to sex rehab and learned all the different ways, all the different things that affected him and made him insecure and made him go out and try to fill that void with like pickup. And he started something called the Society, which this is how I met him. I just reached out to him and I was like, I would love to come see what you're doing now because I knew about the game and I'm fascinated by what I'm seeing you post. And so I went, and there was a lot of people there, famous people who are famous now, like guys that a lot of people look up to. And I was blown away by what I saw. I saw a lot of guys who had like finished the program or seminar, and at the end I would ask them like, hey, what changed for you? What did this do for you? And they were like, I had a bad relationship with my mom. I only knew how to have sex with women but not bond with them. There was one guy who said that he was addicted to hookers and cocaine and that he stopped doing that and he got a girlfriend. And so I would hear all these stories and I was blown away. And also I participated in some of the like exercises and workshop stuff.
Got it.
And Neil was like, you know what he was trying to do?
So you did the Landmark Forum twice. Got
it. I mean, this was a different one, but he taught men inner game. He would call it that. It's like, It's like, how do you feel good about yourself and attract from that? Like, there was one thing that he said. He goes, you should never go to a nightclub or even a restaurant where you have to wait in line, because it's going to make you feel inferior, and women can read that on your face. He's like, people decide whether they want to be friends with you or not from the corner of their eye across the room. It's like an energy thing. They're just like, dude, that person's vibing. You know, have you ever seen someone and they seem like they're having such a good time, and you're just like, oh, I want to be friends with them. You don't know if they're rich or not. You don't care. You're just like,
Yeah,
bro, that guy is dope.
Yeah, I mean, it could be, you know, their energy, the Molly they took that night. I mean, it could be a factor of different things for sure.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, so
that's true. But
it's actually interesting because I'm more of like, I'm not really too much into like the ethereal way of talking about like the energy, the vibes and stuff like that. I'm just more like very science-based. It is scientifically proven that women are more attuned to social cues and seeking out if men feel that they're in higher status or not. It's scientifically proven that basically women, because of just evolution, basically back in the days, when the caveman days, it used to be like men going out hunting, providing, protecting, fighting, and women were usually the ones who had to like follow, right? That's just how it worked. So they basically adapted to figuring out like, who is the guy who is higher status. With that being said, it's actually been tested that women are way more attuned socially than men are, meaning they can read a room, they can pick up social cues, they can like suss out how actually a guy is feeling without him actually having to say it. Do you know what I mean? And I'm sure you feel that too. Like, you can feel if somebody is really nervous or if he's really insecure or something like that. Would you agree?
Yeah.
The thing is, a lot of men can't do that, going the other way around. So, but to answer your question, I think you asked me a question. You asked me, what did I learn, or like, why am I not struggling anymore?
When you're looking back at everything you've learned until now, because now you're good with women, or you're attractive to women. When you're looking, like, if you were to go talk to your younger self, what do you wish you knew? Like, what comes to your mind when it's like, dude, if I only knew this, I would have crushed, you know?
Yeah. If I had to choose one thing I would have not known, that's a great question. If I choose one thing,
anything. There's one thing. Give me a list of things.
There's one. If I choose the number one thing that I wish I knew, there was something that Pickup got wrong, that Red Pill got wrong, and that the Manosphere Today gets wrong, that Andrew Tate gets wrong. So have you heard this idea being perpetuated that men and women can't be friends? Have you heard that?
Yeah.
If I could tell my younger self one thing, if there was like one thing that you could use, that is a complete lie. Now, here's where they're correct. For most guys, they cannot be friends with women because they don't have any options and they're super desperate. So they are correct in that sense, right? Now, if you made the conscious effort to change that, then that would actually make you more attractive. I think if a guy, because here's the thing, you can't change your eye color. You can't like grow taller. You can't like change like how deep your voice is. Like, you don't, a lot of things that make you attractive, you don't have that much control over. Like, yeah, like maybe you could build wealth, but that might like take a long time. Like, you can't control the family you were born into. You can't control the country you were born into. I think everything out of all of those things, the one thing that I found have to be most powerful is if a guy just knows women. That's it.
Yeah.
Right. Just like, how much easier is it? Well, first off, I mean, the reason I started doing it is because I didn't want to wait in line or pay to get in the freaking club. That was the first reason. But the other reason was, like, think about it yourself. Let's say you take a guy and like he has all these same conditions, right? Like same attractiveness, same height, same charisma, whatever it is. Let's say he meets you in, like, he cold approaches you at the bar in the club versus if he's introduced to you by one of your girlfriends.
Yeah, one of my girlfriends is better.
Exactly. Right? So the thing that I wish I would have known, and this is like, honestly, like, Pickup never ever talked about this, was like having female friends. Because, you know, if you, first off, you're like, there's no party you don't get into, like, when you have female friends. Like, it just is the way it works. Like, women are, like, beauty's almost a currency, like in high end social environments. So
True.
if you can't, if you're not super famous, if you don't have like some crazy talent, if you're not super tall or whatever it is, a lot of those things you can't really control, but you can control having female friends. So the reason that's helpful is like if you bring like if you're just a dude and you don't have any value, but you bring like 5 girls to a party, you're gonna get into the party. You're gonna get the free table.
Yeah.
You're gonna
Yeah.
meet more girls. If you bring 5 girls to the club, like I bet it, if you saw a guy with 5 girls at the club and he's not super good looking, you're gonna wonder like why the fuck does he have 5 girls around him? You're at least gonna be a little curious, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If I could choose one thing, that's what I wish I would have known. And also, I would have studied nightclubs more because it's kind of like an analogy for how the world works in a way.
Interesting. You think the whole world works like this?
I think the whole world works to a degree like this. Yes. Because it's all psychology at the end of the day. And I do think like when I look at marketing, when I look at copywriting, when I look at sales, I'm like, all of the principles are the same. Do you see what I mean?
It's so, dude, I agree with you. It's so helpful to learn. I just feel like there's so many ways that the world also isn't like that. And like, for example, when I think about James Sexton, to go back to him, one of the things that I liked was, by the way, at first when I discovered him, the first like few sentences that came out of his mouth actually pissed me off.
What did he say?
And he was saying that he's like, you know, a hot girl is the most lucrative career, period, or like something like that. And then he went on to say, you know, there's men out there who have, you know, worked at hedge funds and made $500 million, and a hot girl walks away with $250 million. And I thought incorrectly from watching that he was going to be one of these guys that's like, hey, don't get married. And then to my surprise, I was like, wow, this guy really cares about like love and marriage and people bonding and staying together. And I was just like so floored by him. But I think maybe in the beginning phases, or when it comes to like status and things like that, it's really helpful to study nightclubs. But I think we don't study the things that actually fulfill us. We just don't. Do you know what I mean? Like, who teaches you how to be intimate and vulnerable with someone? No one taught me.
Yeah.
No one taught me, you know? And I always think about like these couples, because I actually don't think most marriages are happy either. I don't. Half of them break
there's
up.
a 50% divorce rate. So I would agree with you.
But think about all the couples that don't get divorced, that want to, but they don't because of the kids or because of something, you know, a woman who's dependent, or maybe a man who's dependent on a woman for money. You never know. But yeah, I mean, I just think nobody teaches us also how to have meaningful friendships. Some people have them, some people don't. Dude, a lot of friendships are transactional too. You think love is transactional? You know how many people feel used because they have money or a network or something, and they always wonder, would this person be friends with me if I didn't have that? Would this person be friends with me if my dad, you know, wasn't this wealthy? People think about that stuff, you know? And so I don't know. I just feel like you're so right about it being good to study those things because the world works like that a little bit. But I just think we don't focus enough.
That gets you in the door. It's like, to reconcile your point, the way I look at it, because here's what I will say, like, the Red Pill guys are right about. So I know Neil talks about like this inner game and being vulnerable and all this stuff. I think that's important, but like that's important when you're actually in a relationship. That will not make you more attractive initially. Like, I'm sorry. That's
no,
just,
I hear
it's
you.
not gonna happen.
No, I hear you.
I think that stuff is really
true.
good where like if you already got the girl, she's really good to you, like you've already developed a relationship. But like that's like the middle of the funnel. I look at it as like almost like a funnel, like a marketing funnel, right? So that's the middle of the funnel. But to start the funnel, you definitely need all the things that we were talking about to even get there. To reconcile your point, I don't think like the whole funnel works that way, but I think the start of the funnel does work that way. Because
so a girl
like, just think
needs
about
to be really, really hot, is what you're saying.
I'm saying that if she wasn't attractive enough, he wouldn't have noticed her.
Yeah, I hear you.
Like, here's another example, right? Like, I think with social media, like what social media did was, like, here's an example, right? the way it kind of worked, like pre-Facebook was like, all right, you were in your city, you were in this town, like, hey, you're like this really attractive girl, you were really successful, whatever it is. And then you also dated this like really successful guy in your town, right? That's kind of how it worked, right? It was pretty simple. The thing was with social media was now when like something like Instagram exists, it's like you have access to like the people around you, but you also have access to like Drake, literally. Like you have access to celebrities, like you can get flown into these different places. There's these really exclusive parties. So it almost like skewed everything. So the problem is like, to your point, like for a guy to be like vulnerable or something like that, or like have his inner game, well, none of that matters if he never even meets the girl, period, or he's never even seen.
No, that's true. But I also do like what you're saying about being friends with girls. Although you did talk about that giving you more access, but I actually think being friends with girls teaches you, I don't even think it's the word vulnerable. Like, and by the way, same with girls who don't have guy friends. I think having guy friends has been the greatest asset of my life, especially good guy friends who tell you the truth, you know? Yeah, I just think you learn so much just by being friends with a girl. And by the way, I know a lot of people who have been friends and then eventually got married and they weren't attracted to each other initially just because they spent so much time. So it's like the funnel didn't work that way for them. You know what I mean? It worked in the opposite way where it's like, oh yeah, like I'll hang out with her, him, casually or whatever, and it turns into something else. So yeah, it's just interesting to look at.
Yeah, like she grew on him.
Yeah, or he grew on her. However, sometimes that works.
Yeah. I do. Now, here's the caveat. I do think on the flip side of it, I think guys, like if a girl friend zones you, you're fucked. That's not good. I meant like being genuine friends with a girl and not women and not hitting on them initially. Because I think that's good because you will just meet more women and you'll just have better success, and also just calibrates you. What a lot of guys do is they'll like try to get the girl, she friend zones them, then he pretends like, okay, he's cool with it, they'll just stay friends, and then like he's in this pit for like 4 years as she dates some guy and some guy breaks her heart and he's like waiting to save her. That's
Dude,
not
yeah.
what I agree. You know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. That's sad.
Yeah. I definitely agree with like just having female friends that are your genuine friends, and like I think there's no better way to like make women like you than like other women seeing that other women like you. I don't know, like
it makes you know what it is? Because it makes you feel safer. Men don't understand, some men don't understand how big of a role safety plays in friendships or relationships. Like when a girl feels safe around you and she can just like relax, it's the best feeling.
Yeah. 1000%.
And when your friends are like, "Oh my god, he's such a good dude," it makes you feel like, "Oh no, like this guy's a good guy."
Yeah, and I also think it calibrates you, because like
what
you've
does
read
that
the
mean,
game,
calibrates?
right?
Long time ago, but what does calibrates mean in that context?
Like, you ever seen a guy who's like very creepy and socially awkward, and you could tell he does not get it? So that's a guy who's uncalibrated. So it means he's basically, the way I look at calibration is if you're around women and you act completely different from how you would normally act because you're trying to impress them. That's how I would define calibration. So it's like you get really nervous, your palms get sweaty, your like voice inflection goes up, like your eyes get bigger, like it's like very clear like you're trying to appease her. That's what I would say is socially calibrated, like because he just doesn't get it. Like you know how you said you can detect if someone feels inferior, like from the corner of your eye?
Yeah.
That's when you detect they're inferior. That's what I would define as uncalibrated. So I think it's just like a numbers game, right? If you're just around women more often and you're nervous with women, and if you're just having more reps around them, you just get used to it. And if you just get used to it, you become more calibrated. It's just really that simple.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Here's something I want to pick your mind on. You've read the game, and I'm very curious from a woman's perspective when they read a book like that. Like, I understand the guy's perspective because 90% of people who bought that book were men. What's your perspective since you've read actually The Game and the Truth? When you read it, like when you like actually look at the tactics, the strategies and stuff like that, what's your take?
Okay. So my take, okay, the negging stuff I hated. So once
Yeah.
I learned what that is, I had a guard up. So anytime a guy did anything like that, like if you compliment my skirt and you're like, the girl outside wearing it doesn't look half as cute as you, like, you know what I mean? Like the little backhanded compliment. I'm just like, oh no. Automatically, I was like, oh, this is one of these guys that wants to just sleep with me. And it put a bad taste in my mouth. Like it actually prevented them from going further with me. Now, some girls may have not read that book, and those girls don't know what's happening to them. They don't realize that now they're in a position where they need to prove themselves to the guy, and they end up hooking up with him and whatever. But so one, it put my guard up for sure. Two, I also felt like sad that there were guys like that thought. I mean, they didn't actively think it, but they're like, oh, I just want to have as much sex as possible with as many women as possible. And by the way, to me, that's not masculinity. Like that's my problem with a lot of these guys that are like, trying to get all these girls and always surrounded by multiple girls on private jets. Like, I actually don't think that's cool. I think masculinity is discipline. Like, I think that's a man who can get what he wants and he's good looking and successful and jacked or whatever it is that whichever girl values. Some girls don't care about that. But, he has those things and he's like, you know what? I want one woman. I want a relationship. I want to be with my best friend. Like, it's just hot. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So to
But
me,
that's the key thing though. It's the guy who's already attractive who can do that.
yeah, I
Like
hear
if
you.
it's the guy who has zero options and he's super uncalibrated and he's the one who wants it, he's not attractive.
True, but see, this goes back to the nightclub thing again, but I think a guy who goes out into the world will probably be more successful with women by being extremely wealthy than by having game in that sense. Like it puts you in the right spot, and there's a lot of attractive girls who are playing their own version of that game, and they find each other. So, and it makes me sad, but I think people need to work a little bit more on the thing is, inner game is better game than than like negging. It's not, inner game isn't actually about vulnerability. I think you took that word and ran with it and thought that that's what it meant, but it's not even that. It's
Yeah.
literally about like you being funny or having a good vibe or whatever. Like whatever the thing is,
If that's
yeah,
what you meant by it,
that's
yeah,
what it is.
one thousand
Yeah,
percent.
that's what I meant. So happiness, for example, is contagious. Laughter is contagious. To quote Vivek, courage is contagious. Like these things are contagious. So when women see displays of that, it's like, damn, who's that guy? And suddenly a guy who's not that good looking at all can dude, I've been attracted to some of the ugliest guys that I never thought that I would be attracted to. Least
And
attractive.
for the guys
Ugly.
watching this, what did they do that attracted you?
They didn't make a move on me. By the way, not making a move on a girl shows high status.
Mm.
Here's another thing. I think I'm overly attuned to things, the way that you said women are attuned to these social cues and stuff. I'm overly observant when it comes to
I
this
think
stuff.
women are more attuned, but then relative to women, you're even more attuned because of the nature of what you do. So yes, I agree.
I think so. That would probably be correct. Oh, wait, what was the question again? Because I had a good answer.
Fuck, I forgot the question. That's how you know it's a good conversation.
No, I know. That's why I'm like, shit, where was I?
So you were talking about like when a guy like you've been attracted to guys who you've been
I
attracted to
remember
some
the
of the ugliest
question.
guys.
Yeah.
And I was asking what did they do that made you attracted to them?
Okay. First of all, when a guy doesn't make a move on you, or when you're in public with that guy, okay, if you're at a party and you notice a guy looking at other hot girls, it's as if he's never seen one before. if he's staring. Do you know what I mean? A guy who's just minding his own business and talking to his friends and having a good time, and you can tell he's just like enjoying the moment. You kind of just want to like get to know that person as a person. You might not be attracted to the guy. You might just be like, "Oh man, like I want to know what they're talking about." Now you're interesting. You can be interesting first and attractive later, by the way. Interesting first, attractive later. So yeah, a guy like that. And by the way, I think being nice, maybe it's because I'm in my 30s. I think when you're in your 20s, a lot of girls like they kind of like the hot and cold. Unfortunately, it's like they don't know what's happening with their brains. Like you're cold 1 second, then all of a sudden when you're hot, their brains, take it as like a reward. I think that's a problem. But I don't know. I think that actually being like nice and cool and fun and generous, but without any expectation, you're kind of like, damn, like I would just want to hang out with that guy. I don't know. And then if they spend time with you and they don't make a move on you and they're totally hands off, I think then, your ego starts to kick in and you're like, damn, this guy he doesn't even see me like that. Like, I guess I completely misread him. And then you're kind of wondering, like, would I like him? I've had that happen. My friends have had that happen many times.
Yeah.
It's kind of
So
funny.
what you're saying is the guy didn't show a lot of intent up front and he was just cool. And then that piqued curiosity.
Romantic intent.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just like I would have thought that someone who's like not that hot and probably doesn't have options would get way more excited than he is talking to me. So then you're like, wait a second, like he doesn't even, and then if you find out he's like, I don't know, not even gay, you're like, wait, what? That doesn't make sense. Wait, what? Like, and I think that's especially true like if the girl is really really attractive. I don't feel like I think that so much, but I know a lot of like supermodels who tell me stories about how like, oh, I didn't like him at first, but I don't know, and then you find out like, dude, he was so not about it. He grew on her.
Yeah, I really believe like the hotter the girl is, like the less intent you should show. Because
that would probably be true, but I'll tell you something else.
Yeah.
Something that most guys don't know. Hot girls are the most insecure breed. Models are the most insecure breed, and I'll tell you why. Because they see their looks as the most important thing about them, which makes them what over time? A depreciating asset.
Yeah.
Literally a depreciating asset. So then when you have that girl compared to a woman who's maybe not as physically attractive, but sees herself as, a good friend, a funny person, a creative putting herself out in the world, and she has all these things, she doesn't really care if she gets older because she's like, I'm dope. Like, people like me for my personality. People like me because I'm witty and thoughtful and all these other things. Like, people don't realize that when it comes to hot girls. And a lot of hot girls don't even have to work on their personality because literally their beauty is enough to get them almost whatever they want. I know girls like that.
Yeah, I mean, I've met many of these girls, and I can fully attest that a lot of them have serious issues. I definitely can attest to that.
Yeah. I mean, unless they develop character.
Yeah. So what you were saying there, where the guy, so to like align that with the game, so there was what pickup was supposed to be, and then what it actually was, right? So what you said there, where the guy was like, okay, what did he not do? He didn't show intent. He was super cool. He didn't communicate so much interest. That's what the neg was supposed to do. Get it? Like, think about like the theory of the neg. What is the neg supposed to do? The neg is supposed to like challenge her a little bit, not show a lot of intent, not look like you care, right?
Yeah.
That's the point, right? Now, does it actually work? Not really. It doesn't really work. Girls can pretty much see that in an instant, but that was like the theory behind it, right?
Yeah.
So that's where like pickup went wrong. So there's a lot of these like techniques where they're very like shallow. So they're like trying to communicate they're trying to communicate that they don't care by acting like they don't care, which shows that they care. They're trying to like act confident to like show that they're higher status to make up for the fact that they don't have status. That's where it all goes wrong. But
Yeah,
that's
and
what it
girls
was
can
then
sense
supposed to
that.
be. Yeah. So that's why I think pickup missed the female friends aspect of it. I really learned that from, there was like two people I learned that from. It was Michael Sartain, who's, I've told you about him before. I learned that from Dan Bilzerian too. And the reason was because if it goes back to what you said, right? When a guy is going around the club, he's looking at like all these hot girls, his eyes are wandering, like he's in awe. You can clearly tell this is not normal for him. So subconsciously, you think that he's just lower status and you're just less attracted to him. Right. So, but if you have the female, and this is where the red pillars are going to leave these crazy comments calling me a blue pilled simp or some shit. Well, if you had female friends, you were more calibrated and women weren't a big deal to you, you would basically achieve the result you were just talking about. Right.
Yeah. Do you care if red pill guys comment stuff like that to you?
Absolutely not. No, I don't.
I think, to be honest, everyone I know who gets a lot of criticism, they're thriving, because then you have people who come in and defend you. I don't know. It's good for engagement, which is nuts that we're living in this world where no matter what kind of attention you're getting, you get rewarded for it.
Yeah. And honestly, like, well, when you said, am I afraid of red pill guys, are you talking about like the content creators or their fans? Those are two different groups.
Well, I don't think the content creators would necessarily go after you like that.
I'm actually friends with a lot of those guys. They treat me fine. Obviously, we have our disagreements, and I make it clear what my disagreements are, but and at the end of the day, they can pretty much take it. So I have no problems with most of them. Now, their fans, though, their fans are not. So I go on like Michael Sartain's show a lot.
Which ones? Sorry, which show do you go on?
So I'll go on like Michael Sartain's show. I'll go on like Rollo Tomasi's show. He's the guy who like started the red pill, basically. I'll go on his show. His fans are not a fan of me.
Wait, I've never even heard of him. Say the name again.
Rollo Tomasi. So basically the way red pill started was there was a book that came out, I think in 2011. It's called The Rational Male. I think you should read it. But it's basically yeah. It's basically a description of gender dynamics and like the different like sexual market values and like what the different psychologies and different attractive triggers and stuff like that. It's like basically just a description. But it was basically the foundation of what started the red pill, and then like people started taking it and like evolving it and everything like that. But he's like the godfather of the movement. I definitely think you should read the book. But he's a good friend of mine. But now the fans, though, a lot of these guys, just think about it. Like if a guy has time to like comment and like super chat and like insult women, like he's probably not a winner, right? He's probably kind of a loser. So I have had a lot of those guys like make comments, but like I don't give a shit. I really don't care, because I would just care so much more that like the actual content creators are my friends, and like that means way more to me than like some like retard in the comment section making something like that.
Do you feel comfortable? Do you feel comfortable disagreeing with your friends who are content creators? Or do you feel?
Yes.
Are you like, I'm not going to push back? This guy's insane.
All right.
Like,
if he says
example,
crazy shit, but he's like funny, I won't, because I guess it would be good for views. But wait, what's the example you were saying?
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say like I've never interacted with him, but like that guy Myron, for example, I've seen the way he takes digs at people. Like, would you feel comfortable going up against him on anything?
I don't. It's very interesting with Myron, because if you give a disagreement with him off camera, he's pretty chill. Like now he will disagree with you and you'll like have your points, but it's like it will be like a conversation. Like it'll be like just a very normal civil conversation. So no, I don't really feel. I actually really believe that because I challenge people is why they like me and keep me around. I really do believe that. I don't only believe that. Yeah, I don't even believe that just with guys. I believe that with girls too. Like, remember I said, like, almost like the hotter she is, the more you have to challenge her. Because the thing is, here's what a lot of guys do. And they do this with like guys that they want to connect with, but also girls that they want to date. They like, because a nice guy, you know, like there's like that trope about like the nice guy. He's like the victim. Like he always finishes last. You know what I'm talking about? The problem is that he's not actually nice. He's putting up a facade of being nice. That's the problem, right? He's not actually nice. He's trying to fake being nice so that you'll sleep with him. That's what he's trying to do. He's not actually a nice person. A nice person is just going to be himself, whether people like him or not. He's not really going to give a fuck, because he's just going to act the same and he's just going to be himself. So what I've noticed is that People who are like famous or higher status are usually used to the world telling them yes and just agreeing with them. That's their norm. Like when James Sexton says the most lucrative career is being a hot woman, that's what he's talking about, right? Like to
Yeah.
be like when a hot woman like walks in a room, like guys are trying to buy her a drink, they're all trying to sleep with her. Like you've been to a nightclub before, you've been to bars before. They're all trying to give you something. They're all trying to take you to a table. They're all trying to take you out somewhere. They're offering this value. And look, let's be real. When you do that, and that's the reality of like an attractive woman, she gets those things naturally. And she's not used to often being challenged. She's not used to a guy doing that. Like the reason you find that attractive when the guy just doesn't hit on you is because what? The norm is to hit on you. But he's not doing the norm, which is why it's memorable oftentimes.
Yeah, it's true.
So it's the same thing with guys or content creators who are higher status, right? When you challenge them, they actually ended up respecting it. So I noticed that when I challenged women and I also challenged guys, they ended up respecting me more.
But would you do it publicly then, knowing that they'd come at you and try to like destroy you for a clip?
I think what happens is that, again, I'm not defending anybody. I think what happens is that the conversations become very emotional and I don't make it emotional. I just talk very logical. I don't raise my voice. I just talk very a matter of fact. And it doesn't really go that way. The problem is like one person gets hurt, they start being passive aggressive, then they raise their tone, then the other person raises their tone, and then boom, like 50 million views on a clip, right? That's what happens. So yeah. I always try to keep it just like very, hey, here's what the dad says, here's what I think, here's this, and that. Very matter of fact, non-confrontational. And I have noticed that they just respect me more. I have noticed that.
Yeah, now, that makes sense.
There also is the possibility that, you know, I'm not a woman who's challenging them, so they are probably more okay with it. There is also that possibility.
That's true, yeah.
But no, I've noticed that when I challenge people, they typically respect me more because I'm not trying to just yes man them. Have you noticed that? Like, do you ever like challenge your guests a certain way or like maybe try to introduce a new perspective?
Wait, say that again.
Do you ever, like, when you're interviewing someone, like, challenge them or, like, try to introduce a new perspective?
Yeah, all the time. Or, yeah, I'll bring a perspective that someone else has shared with me, and I'm like, what do you think of this? Yeah, all the time.
Yeah. And then what happens? It's like you almost become better friends after it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think people need to become more tolerant. You know? People need to become very, very... Soft. Yeah, I do think... You know, I recommend this book to everyone, but my mentor is this guy, Chris Voss, who wrote a book called Never Split the Difference. Mm-hmm. And it's a business book, but it helps you navigate all kinds of conversations. If you look at the reviews, people are like, this is the best parenting book I've ever read. This is the best relationship book I've ever read because it teaches you how to navigate conflict and it teaches you, you know, how to talk to another person when they're heated or like what to say before you deliver bad news or things like that. And I just think if people learn this stuff, it works like magic.
Well, interestingly enough, the part about not raising your voice and just asking more questions and getting to understand where they're coming from, I actually got that from that book. So that's awesome. I didn't know he was your mentor. No, I just thought you ran his Instagram.
No. I don't even like personally run his Instagram like that anymore. But I mean, I do like strategy and social, but yeah, I mean, he's great.
What were some of the biggest things that you learned like working under him?
Let me see. Okay, so accusation audits, right? Accusation audits is before you say something that you know is going to like offend someone or sound like something they're not going to want to hear. You say, look, I'm going to sound like a bitch. Look, I'm going to sound like a real jerk here. I'm going to sound like an asshole.
Yeah.
And then you say the thing. But when you preface it by calling yourself all these names, they're going to think of the worst possible option because that's what human nature does. Okay? So whatever you say to them, they're going to be like, that doesn't sound that crazy. If you already said, hey, I'm going to sound crazy here when I tell you this. So that's a really good one. Actually, the other day, someone came to me with like an influencer deal being like, hey, this company will like send you their product. It was an expensive product. And they're like, but they only have a $150 budget to get you to talk about this. And the guy kept saying to me, yeah, so I still think it's a really good opportunity. And every time he kept saying that, I just felt my blood boil when he would say that to me, because I'm like, dude, you have no idea what I get paid for stuff like this. And I really wanted to tell him, and I think I'll tell him next time I talk to him, because it'll help him so much. If he came to me and he said to me, look, this is going to sound so offensive because I know what people like you get paid. This is going to be like out of the ordinary offensive, but this company only has a $150 budget. This is their product. Like, I wouldn't have hesitated.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I'm gonna try that on, like, I want to go on some panel shows and just try that.
Dude, you're gonna be like, look, I'm gonna sound like a crazy person.
Be like, hey, I'm gonna sound crazy, but women.
Do you know what the best?
Read.
Do you know what the best?
I'm gonna say something crazy like that. Like, hey, women can go to school.
Yeah, go say that on one of the Red Pill podcasts. But the best example of an accusation audit is, have you seen the movie 8 Mile?
Yeah, it's when he takes all the other guys' insults away before he can say them, right?
He can't even say it. It completely diffuses everything. And that's like a really good example so that people will never forget it. Another one is, instead of getting someone to say yes because they feel manipulated by like, are you tired most of the time? Do you think you could use some more energy? Well, why don't you? People feel so manipulated by that. Is that you frame the question as a no-oriented question. So instead of saying, you know, would you feel comfortable signing this? You say, would you be against signing this? Or like, I mean, any question, just frame it, flip it, and turn it into a no question. Any question where you're trying to get a yes, just because people feel like they have more authority when they say no to you. So if you give them that, then you'll get what you want too. Give them power by flipping your question to a no question, and then you're giving them the ability to say no to you, and that makes them feel like they have agency. Very, very cool stuff.
Yeah, I used to use a lot because I used to do sales. So, I mean, I still do sales, just not as much. But you would actually use a lot of these tactics in like to like what you're doing in like sales. We would call this handling objections, right? That's what it essentially is. So you would basically take people down this compliance of like agreements, and you would almost like get their resistance down. So by time you asked for the sale, they're ready to go. That's essentially how it works. But it's the same exact psychology and the same principles, just applied in different areas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So how did you get, here's something I'm curious about. I know you interviewed Andrew Schulz like way back in the day, like before he blew up. How did you guys get in contact with each other?
I just messaged him on Instagram, and he wasn't like famous back then.
Well, what drew you to interview him?
So someone showed me his content. I started following him, and I was like, this guy's so funny. Oh, and also, since I wasn't able to like get A-listers, I was like, let me just interview up and coming comedians and people that I think are going to be famous, you know? So I just felt like, dude, this guy's doing stuff that other people are not doing. He's not afraid. He's saying whatever he wants. Like, let me interview him about that. So
do you watch Flagrant?
I just hit him up. I don't, because it's too many people at once for me. But I've watched it here and there for sure. Not regularly.
Yeah.
Do you?
Oh yeah. Yeah. My ideal podcast, like the skill I want to develop. Have you heard of Chris Williamson, obviously, Modern Wisdom?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. I want my podcast to be production level of Chris Williamson and have the same intentions as Chris Williamson, integrated with the humor of Andrew Schulz. That's what I want it to be. I definitely want it to be funny, where we laugh and like react to shit. But I also do want it to be something where people can like take value out of it and like actually implement things and actually get better.
So
right, like that would be my ideal. Like if I could fuse myself into like two people and combine them, those would be the two people. It's Andrew Schulz and Chris Williamson.
You're gonna end up having a co-host, I think.
I would love to have a co-host.
Yeah, I see that for you.
Yeah, I definitely would love
I like
a co-host.
those two. I like.
Yeah. What do you have coming up? Did you interview James Sexton already or no?
No.
I know he's a hard man to get a hold of, I assume, right?
He's hard to get a hold of, but also like I never bother him. I'm always just like, because mine is in person. If I was in New York, I'd be able to get him in a second. But yeah, I'm in LA, and so he's coming here to do like another big podcast at some point, and he was just like, yeah, I'll let you know when that is. And so that's what I got.
Wait, Nicole, have you ever considered coming out to Vegas? Like for a little while?
Yeah.
Bro, I really think this is a spot for you. You wouldn't believe how many, like, remember I said everyone comes to Vegas at least once a year? And
I feel like
true.
everyone comes to LA.
Yeah, but not because they want to. It's kind of because they have to. If people want to come to Vegas, I'm sorry, bro. I shit on LA too much. That's like a theme if you're my friend. You just know I always like have to harp
It's
on
okay.
LA.
Doesn't.
Yeah. The thing is, like, there were so many influencers who I followed, and I just didn't know they lived in Vegas. There's just so many here. Like, do you know like Graham Stephan? You ever heard of him?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, like he lives here. Didn't know that, right? Like Alex Hermosi lives here. Brad Lee lives here. A bunch of like self-development content creators live here. Ryan Pineda lives here. There's like so many studios here. Like the Wynn has a studio. The Palazzo has a new studio.
Dude, where does Sean Mike Kelly shoot his?
Where does Sean Mike Kelly shoot his? I think he shoots it in the Wynn. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think he has his own studio right now, but he shoots it in the Wynn. I'm going to totally take this out of the recording, but we obviously know like 99% of his engagement's fake. Like I could get on Sean Mike Kelly. He messaged me the other day.
Yeah,
but
no,
yeah,
I mean, I have his number and yeah.
Yeah. He does an in-person podcast and I think he had a studio in the Wynn, but now he has his own. But yeah. But you've seen the guests that he's had. Yeah. So a lot of people just pass through here. I think it's just a great place to do podcasts. There's so many studios. It's cheaper.
Yeah. How much is it for like an hour over there?
Right now, for me, it's $0. Our studio, I think it's like the one we used to work at. It was $150.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it was $150. The studio we originally filmed at, it was actually really cool. It had like these moving like parts, like the arms would move and everything, and it was like operated by the audio guy. The cool thing was that this whole show was filmed with iPhones, and it looked great. They had these iPhones on like these arms, and they would move it around, and it looked like a real production. Now they've changed it to full camera, so when they open back up again, it's gonna be a bigger studio and everything like that. This studio right here is. I'm actually glad because I know the people who set this up works. But yeah, this is not a real background. This is literally my TV.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah. So if you see Chris Williamson, like, you know how when he does the talking head videos, that's not most of those are not like real backgrounds anymore. A lot of them use basically there is like a teleprompter, which is how like I'm making eye contact through the camera. There's like 3 lights, and then there's like this is like an 85-inch TV with like a 4K background, and it imitates like a background.
You're not looking into a teleprompter right now.
Yeah, I am.
But like for what reason?
Because like if I look at my laptop, I'm looking down.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm looking up at you. So like that's how I can like still look up. The camera, so the laptop is here. Like it's right below me, but I'm not looking at my laptop. I'm looking at a camera that's like right in front of me.
But can you see me?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay, that's cool.
So
I'll have to see it in person.
Yeah, I'll send you a video of it. So hold on, give me 1 second. What are you going out? So basically what happens was I have an iPad that mirrors my laptop. Then there's a teleprompter where you put the camera and then it reflects onto the screen. So I can see you, but it also looks like I'm looking into the camera.
Okay, that's really cool.
Yeah. Yo, you would love this, bro. You got to get this set up. You have to get this set up. It's super cool. And it actually makes the virtual podcast a lot funner. Now, question,
I would love to.
Do you notice that, at least I don't feel like I have this, but like I definitely think there's something different about in-person, but in-person is harder to pull off.
All of mine are in person. But yeah, it is harder.
Have you ever done a virtual one before, or am I your first?
No, I've done a virtual one where I've been interviewed, but you know what? During the pandemic, I interviewed Robert Greene, and that was on Instagram Live. So I guess I have.
What was he like?
Smart. That dude is
Yeah.
smart.
Yeah, I love 48 Laws of Power. I think The Art of Seduction is one of the worst books to get good with women, though.
I mean, I hear that. I hear that.
Yeah.
I think Laws of Human Nature, if you haven't gotten Laws of Human Nature, I think that's a really good one.
Yeah, like Laws of Human Nature, like I agree with some of the stuff. The problem, like, I think Robert Greene is he's almost like an amazing accountant of history, meaning like his description and his accounts and his ability to put that on paper of like actual events that have happened is 10 out of 10. Like that is a world-class talent that he has. The other problem though is it's not very scientific. So when we use like the laws of human nature, I just think inevitably like what I like to study is like evolution of desire, like why women have sex, like why men behave badly. Like it's like evolutionary psychology, like with a lot of studies.
Wait, there's a book
it.
called Why Women Have Sex?
Yeah.
Why do they have sex?
Well, there's 237 reasons why, which means there's an infinite number of reasons why. The reason there's no why men would have sex is because the book would be like, half a page.
Damn, I didn't even know I didn't know there was a book like that about women. I'm curious now.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like what you said like before, right? It's like a guy can he could be super ugly, but he could talk in a certain way, he could act in a certain way. Basically, women have many different things that initially can attract them to a guy versus a guy can just like see a girl and just know he's attracted to her, right? I'm not saying women aren't attracted to looks too, but not to the extent that men are. So that's why, there's 237 reasons, but that just means there's an infinite number of reasons why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But yeah, that's all I got. I think I got through my points. I want to talk about Andrew Schulz. I want to talk about your podcast, what you have coming up. But yeah, no, this was great. I'm glad you came on, and I appreciate it.
Me too. Thanks for having me on.
When are you coming to Vegas?
3 days.
3 days? Are you staying all 4 days of the conference?
I'm staying Monday.
Okay, cool. Where are you staying?
Encore.
Okay, so you really like to ball out. Yeah, let me know. Are you coming with anyone or no?
I mean, I'm going to be with a bunch of my friends. So, and I have like dinners and stuff, but I don't have like nighttime plan. I don't know. I should actually send you the list of like events and all that.
I know I'm going to go to the conference at least. I'm just going to go for like one of the days because I've actually never usually go.
Are you going as media?
No, not this time. Not this time, no.
Oh, no, because, but...
I'm past those days. I wouldn't be opposed to doing some interviews there. Oh, you did?
Dude,
Are you doing
should.
it?
You should do interviews there.
Yo, do you need a camera guy? Just go in.
Can you come with me?
I don't know if I could go. Wait, what time's it? Actually, let me stop the recording.
I don't